Hi there. Welcome to Productivi-Tree. I'm Santi Tacoronte, and I'm here to help you succeed and be happier. In each episode, we'll explore new ways to work smarter, manage your time better, and grow as a person. We'll share fresh ideas, find ways to improve, and help you become your best self at work, in life. Join me as we learn and grow together on Productivi-Tree. I have assessed over 500 executives on their productivity, and the top 10 all have something in common. They score high across 4 specific vectors: efficiency, effectiveness, ownership, and well-being. When these 4 align, you just don't lead better. You create compounding advantages that separate exceptional leaders from good ones. Take my 5-minute free assessment, and you will see exactly how you compare. Most leaders are shocked by what they discover. Find out where you stand at the link below. You built a career that most people would envy. But somewhere in your 40s, the body started filing complaints. Fatigue, fog, joints that send you reminders you did not ask for. Timothy Ward has faced all of it. He just refused to accept it as inevitable. Timothy is 60, and he looks nothing like it. He spent years turning a childhood he did not choose into a life he built on purpose. His book, The Goat Within, is part memoir and part manual. Through Livestrong, he works with executives who are running out of energy faster than they're running out of ambition. His fitness quadrant and MIT systems are built around one premise: strength is not optional after 45. And he's here with us today. Timothy, welcome to Productivi-Tree.
All right. I'm glad to be here.
Timothy, you grew up in chaos. When did sport stop being escape for you and start being something more deliberate?
Well, a lot of people don't know this about me because they see me as a, sort of a longevity, wellness, productivity type of person, and that's what I do. But reaching way back, I grew up in chaos with, physical abuse as a young kid, some tough times. But I always kept my hand in athletics as a young kid. That was my happy place. And I was pretty talented, as a young boy. And the athletics led me to fitness and athletic performance, et cetera, so I could keep that edge as I was going through my teens and mid-teens, late teens, college, that type of stuff. So probably my mid-teens, maybe a little bit towards 20, I really started to realize the depth in the complexity and the payoff of applying real exercise science to my life. Productivity, just healthy and strong. And it was a lot more than just going to a gym or working out. So that was the point in which I really started to understand the power, the metrics of really doing this the right way. And over the years, I've coached so many people, from pro athletes to, everyday, moms and dads, young sports teams, all that stuff. And the science relatively stays the same. The modalities change a little, depending on the outcomes of the groups or whoever you're working with. Today, I work with a lot of executives, a lot of business owners, people that have heavy workloads. But it occurred to me way back then how complex this entire platform of wellness really, really is. And, the big chunks of what people miss in it. And still today, there's really big missing pieces. So I'm the guy that just really guides people and really brings them to a point where they can recognize those chunks and they can start filling in the gaps to make themselves a lot more productive, a lot more energetic. They can really handle and deal with stress and workloads and all the stuff that comes with all of our lives, right? The name of my book is, the tagline is Healthy and Strong or Sick and Weak. That was very intentional how I wrote that. to get people to, really maybe pay attention a little bit more to themselves and how to get into that zone of really upper high echelons of wellness and productivity. Yeah.
Your book rewrites your own story. Was that uncomfortable? Because let me explain that. Most people prefer to move on rather than look back. But you have unraveled your entire chaos as you define it in your own book. How did you go about that?
I mean, it's a great question. It's the first book I ever wrote, right? And I have business advisors and longtime clients say, you have to write a book. The stuff you're doing has really changed my life, et cetera, right? So I dragged my feet and, after the COVID thing that we all had to deal with, it was a time for me to say, you know what? It's probably a good time for me to really focus in on writing a book. Man, was it tough. It really is, uh, um, artwork. It's really structuring it right, all those things. So incorporating some of my own story into it, I felt was important to have that authentic vibe to the book, not me just spitting out all this data and information. I find that boring when I read books like that, right? So I go into it a little bit, not real heavy about my journey and my past, what this stuff really meant to me, how it changed me, how I've taken family and friends over the years that have constantly asked how they do this stuff the right way. So seeing the effect of my work on them, on their stories, really is how I really formed the basis of writing the book that became a bestseller in 22 days, I think, which was a huge surprise for me. So it's a unique book in a sense that it's not all about science and fitness and all that. It's really kind of digs a little bit deeper into the psyche of why would you make choices in your life that really hurt you? How do you escape that? How do you build successful loops in your life instead of toxic loops where we go back and it's always things that we repeat? And it's really about trying to break those loops through some knowledge, through some personal courage to really age into your 40s, 50s, and 60s and 70s, age strong. And so the book really has a lot of information in it. I've gotten really nice comments globally on the book, which obviously was my whole goal, is to really try to connect with people and have them think about, where am I going to be in 5 or 10 years? What are the choices I'm making today? What are the choices I made 10 to 15 years ago that are really kind of physically dragging me down now? How would I even know what's physically dragging me down? So, aging is a huge journey for all of us. And the normal societal norms, dictate something that I'm completely against. I don't think you need to slow down when you're in your 50s and 60s and 70s. So the book talks about that, the mentality in the triggers, in the strategies of how you're going to age into strength instead of aging into weakness and decay. And you can't do that because you're 62. You're not supposed to do that. I say, no, no, that's not a way of thinking that is going to give most people the platform
Mhm.
to achieve some things that they really want to achieve. And I think it's an important psyche. I think more and more people are starting to feel that way. Like I'm 58 or I'm 60. I don't want to slow down, but I'm supposed to. Not in my world. It's um, it's quite opposite. And I have so many success stories of people in their 70s, and I have clients in their mid 70s that have really turned themselves around. And so the book is about that. I have a really incredible case study that's an actual client. He's 73 now, C-suite executive, retired. What what a turnaround this guy has made out of the hundreds and hundreds of people I've worked with, he's probably he's got to be one of the most remarkable turnarounds I've ever seen, from knee injuries and back injuries and overtraining and a hectic schedule as a corporate executive in the insurance world. He really suffered over those years. He worked 50, 60 hours a week. And he turned around, and the guy is in the most unbelievable shape and condition at 73 years old. It's quite a story. And so I use his story in the book. I weave it in and out of the book over, I think, 4 or 5 different sections. So it's kind of a side story people kind of go back to as they read through some technical stuff and through some systems that I've trademarked. But Santi, the first 90 pages of my book, and this is quite important for people, I think, to hear if they don't already know this stuff. It's 90 pages of the toxic world we live in, toxic foods, toxic environment, really, really hurts people, and it hurts them over the years. It's not like one gigantic problem. It's little things, increments over the years. So by the time people enter into their, mid 40s or late 40s, certainly 50s, those toxic foods and mass-produced foods and inadequate dietary habits, those really start showing up in your 50s and 60s, just at a time when you want to, you've worked so hard, you want to start maybe enjoying some of the fruits of your labor, right? So that's when people start having problems. And it doesn't have to be that way. People shouldn't have to suffer in their
Mhm.
50s and 60s, and they don't have to if they follow certain rules and gain a little bit of knowledge. And that's what I'm so blessed to work with so many people in that regard. So, yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Let's get into this a bit later. You said it's not it's great to age with health and with strength. How can our listeners detect that their body is decaying? What are the signals? What are the symptoms that someone
Hmm.
needs to take care of themselves? Because I'll tell you what, young people, right? They can do whatever they want.
Hmm.
They can sleep at 6 in the morning and then wake up at 7, go to the gym, go to work, and it's all right. But
Hmm.
people in their when you reach your 35s to 40s, your body naturally, I don't know, because I'm not an expert, kind of like slows down a little bit. When is the time to say now?
Great question. It's probably, one of the biggest topics I deal with is, you know, um, timelines. Why do I not feel, energetic? I'm 46. What happened to me? I don't have the energy. I'm losing muscle. I'm this and it's biological changes start to really come into play, and we have less energy. We have little maybe injuries that we don't recover so quickly from. Our lower back is stiffer in the morning. Our knees hurt walking down the stairs, right? Those are just natural uh, occurring depletion markers in your body. We produce less testosterone. We produce less um, stem cells. We produce less what I call physical currency when we're young. We have mountains full of this currency, and we can withstand a lot more when we're young as opposed to when we start turning 45, 50. That's the age where we start losing muscle. Our central nervous system, which is a real critical piece of our aging, it starts to get dull. It doesn't work as quickly as it did when we were younger. So I think a lot of people at that age, I hear this a lot, is they get the mid-afternoon, they start falling asleep at 1 or 2 because maybe their nutrition isn't right, or their food intake isn't at a level that allows blood sugar levels to be stabilized, and their body ends up fighting all these things. And we simply don't have the strength when we start turning 45 or 50 years old to counteract all these things that were easy when we were 25. I actually talk about this in the book. So these are the pieces that take some knowledge. I provide that knowledge. And then I also provide, some framework of, okay, now that we know some of these things, how do we incorporate it? What does my week look like? What do I actually do during the week to fight against these things? Really interesting stuff. One of the issues, we start talking about the human body and performance. We start talking about aging, our biological clock gets older. One of the issues, Santi, is there's such a large amount of things that need to go right if you want to push back against aging, if you want to have more energy, if you want to have more muscle, more strength. There's many, many factors. So I try to get this across to people. It's not one thing. It's not, I'm going to start running 3 days a week to get healthy, or I'm going to start eating more salads. I hear that constantly, right? So it's a combination of things, and I'm sure we'll talk about it here during your show, the fitness quadrant, what it really means, the way I've simplified it for people to understand the big phases of what needs to come together for you to start being more productive, more energy, more tenacity, right? And it's not just the job, it's with your kids or your family, it's your life. Why not treat it in a way that you're always running highly tuned? You're running with more energy, you've got more vibrancy to you. And that's really what my platform is. And people have changed the trajectory of their life going through this stuff. And that's the key. It has to be attainable, understandable, sustainable, and practical for people. So all these strategies can really push people forward. And like I say, I'm the happiest guy around because I get to work with people all over the world, designing these protocols for them, working on what I call their personal ecosystem, how they can achieve this stuff. I'm starting to do some corporate speaking to small business groups, 30, 40, 50 employees on these strategies. And people are just like, wow, I never thought of it that way. So that's what I've constructed. And again, I'm so thankful for the amount of people I've been able to work with to give them this knowledge. It's really exciting for me.
Take us briefly through the fitness quadrant, the framework that you have trademarked and that you
Mm,
use with your clients.
mm. So one of the problems over the years that I just mentioned, there's so many different components that need to go right in order for people to get into that world of super fit. How do I add 10 years to my life? All that sort of stuff, right? So I've got a couple different fitness quadrants that I put together. The first one is the basic one, and it's 4 quadrants. These 4 things are the big phases of your fitness. Okay, so if you think about a box and it's got the four pieces on the box, right? The upper left is the R quadrant, the resistance training quadrant. This is either at your house or at a gym. Most people are, maybe 70% of people at a gym. What does resistance training really mean? How do you perform it the right way? What is it? What's the benefit of it, right? So I go through different components of why that has to be one of your major um, pieces every week that you need to perform at least 2 days a week of resistance training. That keeps our energy levels, that keeps our muscle mass. The problem is, in order for people to do that properly, they end up hurting themselves because they don't have a kinesiology background on how to exercise properly, what things to choose, what patterns to put together. Okay. So that resistance training piece, the top left quadrant, really, really important. We move to the top right quadrant. That is your nutrition piece. Okay.
Mhm.
That nutrition supports your resistance training. Okay, they all intertwine. So we have to get our nutrition right. What is a whole protein? What are good carbohydrates? What are good fats? What are bad fats? Okay, so that nutrition piece sits there with a big drop down list. How do I fuel my body? How do I eat in order to keep my muscle mass there? All right. The bottom left quadrant, the third quadrant, is cardiovascular. How do I incorporate the right types of cardiovascular work to keep my heart strong, to keep my energy levels high, to produce more capillaries in my body? How do I do this? What should my heart rate be? What are the outcomes? What am I looking to do? Do I want to burn fat? Do I want to lower my heart rate? Okay, so there's protocols to use in that quadrant. And then the bottom right quadrant is the rest and recovery. That is a part of your weekly training. You need to rest, you need to recover, but you need to do it the right way. So those four pieces all fit together and they all make each other better. A lot of people, this is a great time to just give you an example of this. So a lot of people that I know in my network, old friends, family, that type of stuff, they struggle. 9 out of 10 of them really struggle every springtime. I've got to lose 20 pounds and my knee hurts and I can't seem to lose this belly. I hear it all over the years. All right. So what they end up doing is they end up choosing cardiovascular work, either jogging or they go to a gym and get on a treadmill, which is great stuff to do. But you have to do it in a manner that um, allows you to benefit from that exercise activity. And what happens to most people that do a lot of cardio work, because it's easy to do, I'm going to go run, right? They end up losing muscle mass. They end up using muscle as fuel during that cardio bout. Muscle is the last thing you want to lose. If you're an executive, if you're somebody that really has to put out a lot of energy every week, you're managing teams, you're traveling, you're doing, if you start losing your muscle mass, it's one of the biggest markers on your body. You will suffer the consequences of a lower metabolism. You're going to gain more fat quickly, right? So muscle is a tissue that people need to understand how important it is on your body. And I'm not talking about, you know, being 50 years old and working out in a manner that makes you look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, a big bodybuilder. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about maintaining the muscle mass you already have because you're going to start losing it naturally. You need to face these things. You need to understand there's a strategy I really need to have here in order to do that. Maintain the muscle, maybe gain a little bit of muscle if you're 50, 60 years old, right? So muscle is magic. It's actually a chapter in my book, and I talk about all the benefits, what it means, what does muscle mass really mean for you on the body, women and men. Um, my wife and I, I'm 61, she's 63. We don't even think about it. I still fight and train my MMA and jujitsu with all these 28-year-olds, and her friends don't want to go to the beach with her. She's 63. She looks unbelievable. She looks like she's 45. And we live this lifestyle. We know what to do. And we realize it's not as easy for people to understand all these pieces that need to come together. Right. So muscle is magic. It's a huge piece of information that, my wish is people start to understand that a little bit more, why it's important. How do I gain a little bit more muscle? How do I maintain what I have? What are the things I need to do to maintain that? And it's a cross section of the fitness quadrant. You need to be doing those four things in order to maintain it. But it's a lifesaver. It can add years to your life if you understand this stuff. Um,
Right.
I work with a lot of executives, Santi, as we talked about before the show, and they suffer the most because of the pressure on, a C-suite executive or somebody that's managing a large group for a company. A lot of pressure on them. Monthly reports, quarterly presentations to show, you know, the progress of what they're doing, and they get so stressed out. And what happens is they stop prioritizing proper fitness. And I see it all the time, not just in the US, but with people I work with in different countries. And that's the first thing they say. They're like, look, I work 60 hours a week. I've got this high paying job. I got a lot of pressure on me, but my body's falling apart. I need to find a way to not let that happen. And I've tried everything, all these different things. So what we do is we give them a realistic scientific snapshot of, listen, 2.5 to 3 hours a week. That's what you need to start managing this stuff properly. And you need to be doing the right things in those 2.5 to 3 hours. So it's a relief for people, for somebody like me to write those protocols for them. And, they're better off for it because they don't have to think or guess. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? It's no different than having a great financial advisor or having a really qualified attorney. If something happens to you, you need that expertise, right? It's the same type of thing. And unfortunately, fitness and nutrition, all that stuff, it really gets watered down in the world.
Mm.
There's a lot of misinformation out there. I see it because of my background in exercise sciences. And again, your original question was the fitness quadrant. What does it mean? That's why I developed that quadrant, to put it in perspective for people instead of having just this big bag of stuff you have to do. Let's divide it out a little bit so people can understand it a little bit more. And it helps me with clients as well, is to guide them in these four different ways. So yeah.
What is the looking at long term, and because obviously your coaching and your programs are long term, is to persist and to age with muscle and health. Where these people most frequently fail, Timothy? Is it on motivation? Is it because they don't see results and they fall back to what they were doing before? It's what's the advice for people that want to start soon, but want to stay put?
Such a good question again from you. There are a lot of different, choke points or failure points. People in general really want to have that spark of wellness and higher fitness levels, all that stuff. But um, I think there's a couple different answers to that question, which is, again, a great question. So the first thing I would say is a lack of knowledge. That's the first barrier to entry. When you don't really have the knowledge on how to do this stuff right, it's so much easier to just quit or to ignore it or to not prioritize it. One of the things early on, was one of your first questions to me, is what, my journey, and at what point did you really see this stuff in a different way than just going to a gym or whatever? And it was when I started in my early 20s training with an Olympic level exercise scientist, a brilliant guy. And he and I befriended each other, and he had a lot of pro athletes he trained, etc. And he said to me one day, in my early 20s, "You're doing that wrong." He said, "I see all the effort you put in, and you're at a plateau." And I said, "You know what? You're right. I am. I've been battling and trying harder, but I don't get any results." I see that as a major issue with most people. It's the lack of knowledge. Even people that are really have strong willpower just ends up failing because you can only do it for so long and you get no results or you get injured, right? So lack of knowledge is number one. Number two is prioritizing. So many people, and I understand it. They're raising a family, they have a high power job, they're busy doing, all sorts of things socially. And oftentimes, people's well-being and certain protocols of fitness practices, they really get pushed down in the priority list. My input to people is, you know, you only have one body. You only have one direction you're going as time goes by. You can manipulate that direction if you have the right data, the right information, and you apply it. You understand the importance of getting into a program and a system. So the second thing is prioritizing. I see people slip off and they don't prioritize it. And I always tell people, if I'm speaking in front of a live audience, I say a couple things to them. And this is the first one I say, is your fitness and your well-being will be, at some point in your life, it will be the number one issue in your life. Your health. It will be. It's either by choice or by force. You're either going to be in a hospital bed and a doctor telling you, you need to start doing this, you need to lose weight, your heart is in bad shape, blah, 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 right? Or if you're preemptive and you start to understand it a little bit more and you get with people with the right information, that information really sparks people to stick with it. So the more knowledgeable people are on how to do this stuff the right way, I see that as a positive, very sticky situation for people staying with it. Is because now they start to understand the deeper levels of why they're doing it, right? So those two things are are really big. And the third thing I would say to you is the human body is such an incredible machine. It is incredible. All right. Obviously steeped into the science of it. But here's what I say to people. The human body is highly adaptive. It will adapt to really good impetus you put on it or really bad. Okay. Bad meaning drugs and alcohol and sedentary lifestyle. Your body will adapt to that and it will really start to decay and fall apart. Or on the other side, if you really have really good, healthy, knowledgeable inputs, all you're doing is you're triggering your body to adapt to some of the stress you're putting on it, to get stronger, to have better metabolism, right? To age more gracefully. So your body will adapt to whatever stimulus you put on it. And most people don't put the right stimulus on it. That's why they end up in their 50s and 60s, and they really could be a lot healthier, a lot more able to participate with all sorts of activities in their life. The real downer is when people start to fall apart. The real downer is they lose their freedom, freedom of movement, freedom of activity. God forbid they get so, sick and disabled that they really are dependent on a pharmaceutical drug to kind of make them feel better, which is a really slippery slope, right? So I tell people you have to be preemptive. You have to have the right knowledge. It's out there for you. It's 2026. There has been so many breakthroughs, but accessing the right knowledge is difficult, right? There's 15 billion trainers out there that go on the internet and they get, 30-minute test. I'm a certified trainer. No, you're not. You took a test and answered a few questions and, compared to somebody like me that can really run a professional team, write the right protocols, understand all the mechanisms of what it takes. A majority of people I work with now in groups today are between 45 and 80 years old. It's that group of people that really need to understand this stuff so they can, be higher producers. And the speech I give is called "The Roots of Longevity and Performance," and the roots of it is your wellness, it's your health, it's your ability to cope with aging, the winds of aging. Are you strong enough to cope with it? And it becomes a really important factor in all our lives at some point.
Timothy, tell us about biomarkers. This is one of the first things you do when you start working with someone.
Mm.
Why are they so important to you?
Great question. This is a new journey for us. I was on a show that a medical group heard me. They bought my book, they read the book, and they emailed me saying, "Wow, we'd love to talk to you." This is how this whole thing happened. And I've sort of been looking for the last few years with the right group to work with. That I've always had um, um, an issue with the supplement industry. Huge industry. It's in the billions. Most people buy marketing and fancy labels, and the supplements that they buy are really, really low grade, full of fillers, mass produced. They don't really do anything for you. Some of them, very few of them are decent quality. So I've always been looking for a company to work with, and I've always known that if I can collaborate with the right company to do blood work, to really do a diagnostic on people, that is where a lot of the magic lies, because you can get a real world inside glimpse at the markers. Okay, we do a blood test now for people that measures 120 biomarkers. We started in January, and this is for the U.S. We do it. Unfortunately, I can't really go overseas to do it. So we measure all sorts of deficiencies in the body, minerals, gut bacteria. We do all cholesterol, vitamin deficiencies in the blood marker we have and we use really for 25 years. This group I'm with, all they did was pro athletes. It's all they did because of the performance they need. Every 6 months, the athlete would come in, do a blood marker panel, and they would adjust their vitamins and supplements to account for the deficiencies that they were seeing. So we have this now. It used to be very expensive. We're probably the cheapest in the country by far. And I always like to just say the price so I'm completely transparent with people if they go onto my website and look at it. If they're in the US, we're $349 for 120 biomarker blood panel. That same panel is typically over $1,200 in most specialty labs that you go to. So we do the marker in about 2 weeks. Blood gets analyzed. People get a dashboard, a private dashboard of all the markers of their blood work, and it shows them the 15 biggest deficiencies in their blood. We then, because we make our own supplements, okay, we don't have any middlemen, no distributors, comes right out of our factory in Arizona. This is not overseas manufacturing, and it's all whole food sources we use. High bioavailability for all of our products. We actually custom blend a packet for people for $149 a month according to their blood deficiencies. So we have a lot of people using it now, and it's a game changer for them. They sleep better, they recover a bit better off of their workouts, they have more strength. Just the whole platform opens up to them because now they're using supplements that are really driving change with them. So I urge people to just go on, just at least read about it on my website. It's fascinating. We have a lot of information on the website. We're excited about it only because people spend a lot of money on supplements. They carpet bomb. They don't even know what they need. And they'll go to Amazon or their local store and they'll buy it. The way we do it now, I'm so happy we have this in our system, is we actually can look at the real deficiencies people have. So they now target all the deficiencies so they're not wasting any money anymore. And they're buying a much more superior product with us because of the bioavailability, how we make our supplements is incredible. They're all enzyme digested, so it increases the bioavailability. Very expensive process, but it's the real thing, and people can go on and read about it. Fascinating stuff, but we're thrilled to have it. Yeah.
I have 5 quick fire questions here prepared for you. Are you ready?
Oh man, I don't know if I'm ready, but let's
You
go.
better be. Number 1, what is one non-negotiable you impose to all your new clients?
Non-negotiable is if they can't adhere to the 4 quadrants, they can't work with me. They have to stick to it. That's a non-negotiable with me, and they report back to me every week, which is great, and they love it. They love it.
What is the cardio myth that wastes most of people's time?
The cardio myth is people think doing cardio is the definition of getting fit, and in reality, it's only getting really one thing fit, and that's your cardiorespiratory system. So you need other components to really do this the right way, and that's the fitness quadrant.
Hmm. What is the hardest mindset shift that you have ever witnessed in a client?
Wow. I could go on for 3 hours on this.
Let's make it in 30 seconds, Timothy.
They think because they played high school football or high school lacrosse 29 years ago, they think they know how to work out. And it is a rude awakening when I work with them and I bring them through the onboarding process.
Mm.
They're blown away. And they say to me, 9 out of 10 of them, this is what they say to me, Santi. They say, "Oh my goodness, I've been doing this wrong my whole life." And I said, "Yes, you have." Yep.
And the last one, what is the fastest way to connect strength training to daily performance at work?
Mm, great question. I would say the king of all fitness is strength training. And I say that for a very distinct reason. If your strength training is done in a particular way, I have a system that's trademarked called modified interval training. If it's done in the right way, your workouts can become so efficient. You get the benefit of growing muscle and a cardiovascular workout at the same time. So that for sure is the king of fitness, the resistance strength training piece, if it's done the right way.
Timothy, let's wrap this up. where can our growing audience find your book and know more about you, what you do, biomarkers, and all the amazing things you described us today?
Two places. First of all, my website is sort of a hub for all this data. And the website address is www.lifestrong.net. A lot of information on the website about biomarkers, the book's on there, all that. But if people go to Amazon globally, it's selling in, 60 some odd countries. And they look up The Goat Within on Amazon, you'll see that it's a bestseller and they can get it there. I urge people at least, get the book, read through. I promise you will pick up a dozen things out of that book that you probably don't know about now. And to me, it's all about staying connected with the people and sharing good information. And they can email me through the website if they have questions. I'm here to help people. At the end of the day, that is my mission, is to help people get stronger, and live longer. That's what I want to do.
Timothy Ward, I want to thank you for this very interesting, energetic, and full of stamina conversation. One thing I'm taking away, Timothy, is that what you said about aging and slowing down, right? This is common knowledge, right? Common wisdom as you get old. Be careful, don't do this, don't do too much exercise. And you know what? Beyond what people say or medicine says, I see more and more people like you that are aging absolutely fantastically. And they look much better than youngsters.
That's right.
I'm taking that away. It's never too late.
I'm telling you, it isn't. And it's a great way to wrap up the show. You don't have to be 55 or 60 and feel like you're 80 years old. It could be the opposite. It's knowledge, and it's having some courage to understand it. You can change the trajectory of your life if you're not in great shape and you feel like you're getting out of control. It can easily happen with the right people and the right knowledge base, for sure.
Timothy Ward, thank you so much for being with us today.
Been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Productivi-Tree. I hope you found something useful in today's episode. If you did, and it helps improve your life even a tiny bit, that'll make me really happy. Remember, you can find Productivi-Tree on all major podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. If you enjoyed the show, why not share it with a friend who might also find it helpful? Until next time, and keep growing and stay productive. I have assessed over 500 executives on their productivity, and the top 10 all have something in common. They score high across 4 specific vectors: efficiency, effectiveness, ownership, and well-being. When these 4 align, you just don't lead better. You create compounding advantages that separate exceptional leaders from good ones. Take my 5-minute free assessment, and you will see exactly how you compare. Most leaders are shocked by what they discover. Find out where you stand at the link below.